Today we're going to be talking about gender inequality. We will explore how gender inequality continues to influence multiple areas of American life, wage gaps and leadership, underrepresentation to unpaid domestic responsibilities. These patterns are not isolated or personal, but structural. By using a sociological perspective, we can better understand how social norms and institutional frameworks uphold inequality and what that means for equity moving forward. Today, we're going to explore how gender inequality still plays a powerful role in shaping the structures of U.S. society. Although we've seen progress over the decades, women, especially women of color, continue to face barriers in terms of fair wages, leadership opportunities, and unpaid labor. The gender pay gap is one of the most visible and measurable indicators of gender inequality in our society. On average, women earn about 82 cents for every dollar earned by men. But this statistic becomes even more troubling when you look at the breakdown by race and ethnicity. For example, Black and Latino women earn significantly less, 65 to 70 for every dollar, while a non-Hispanic white man makes. This shows how gender and race intersect to create compounded disadvantages for women of color. The pay gap isn't just about working fewer hours or taking time off. It's caused by deeper systemic issues like occupational segregation, discrimination, and motherhood penalties. Women tend to be concentrated in fields that are socially undervalued and underpaid. Sectors like caregiving, teaching, service jobs are often crucial to our society, but they are not compensated accordingly, partly because they are associated with women's work. When we talk about closing the gender pay gap, we're not just talking about giving women a raise, we're talking about addressing systemic inequalities, reevaluating the value of labor traditionally done by women, and making structural changes in how we promote and reward work across all sectors. Now let's talk about leadership disparities. Even though women make nearly half of the US force, their representation in top leadership roles is still shockingly low. 10% of the Fortune 500 CEOs are women, a statistic that speaks volumes about the barriers women face in climbing the corporate ladder. A major issue is the bias that women are too emotional, too nurturing, or too distracted by family responsibilities to be strong leaders. These outdated and harmful stereotypes continue to affect hiring and promotion decisions. Many workplaces are still structured around masculine coded leadership traits like aggressiveness, dominance, and risk-taking traits. These are often rewarded, while collaborative or empathetic approaches are more commonly associated with women are undervalued. As a result, women who don't fit the traditional mold of a leader often are overlooked even when they are equally or more qualified. Representation and policy show a similar trend. Women hold just about 28% of U.S. congregational seats, despite making up over half of the population. This gap is due not only to systemic barriers like lack of funding or political mentorship, but also the bias and exclusion within political institutions. Women are underrepresentation in leadership. Their perspectives and priorities, especially on issues like healthcare, childcare, and education, are less likely to be reflected in decision making. This lack of diversity affects not just members of society, but as a whole. Leadership disparity is not just a matter of representation, it's a matter of fairness, equity, and effectiveness. Inclusive leadership leads to better decision making, improved organizational performance, and policies that reflect the need of all people. Another critical but often invisible part of gender inequality is the unpaid labor and mental role that women carry. This burden has significant effects on women's health, careers, and overall well-being. On our average, women spend about 4.5 hours per day on unpaid labor, while men spend about 2.2 hours. This includes not just physical tasks like cooking, cleaning, and childcare, but also the mental and emotional labor of managing schedules, planning meals, remembering school needs, and being the default caregiver. The mental load reverts to the constant invisible management of household and family responsibilities, the emotional stress of remembering everything and being responsible for ensuring it all gets done. Even if someone else helps physically, this is mentally exhausting and undervalued. The unequal distribution of labor limits women's time for education and career development and rest. Even full-time working women often carry the majority of domestic responsibilities. This is not only increasing their stress, but also stalls growth, especially when employers interpret flexibility or time for the lack of ambition. Ultimately, the unpaid labor a woman provides sustain household and communities, but it often goes unrecognized and uncompensated. To achieve gender equity, we must not only acknowledge this labor, but also create policies and cultural norms that promote shared responsibilities. This slide shows statistics that demonstrate just how persistent and widespread inequality is across various sectors. Despite decades of awareness and advocacy, these numbers show slow or stagnant process. First, the gender wage gap has been largely stagnant over the past 20 years. This tells us that despite women entering the workforce in greater numbers and earning more degrees than men, the structural issues driving wage inequality haven't been adequately addressed. Only 1% of top leaders are women of color, and there's only 53 women CEOs among Fortune 500 firms. This lack of representation at the very top reflects the systemic exclusion of women, particularly women of color, from networks, power, and advancement. In addition to being underrepresented in leadership, women continue to perform the majority of unpaid labor on average. Women do twice as much unpaid labor as men every day, which includes caregiving, housework, and emotional management. Even when women are the primary breadwinners, studies show they still do more unpaid work at home than male partners. This often challenges the assumption that higher income leads to more equal division of labor. Instead, it reveals the deep cultural norms that expect women to carry the domestic load no matter their career status. These statistics highlight how gender inequality is embedded in both our workplace and our homes. They serve as a call to action not only for policy reform, but also for a cultural shift in how we value women's contributions. As we look ahead, it's clear that further research is needed to fully understand and address gender inequality in both paid and unpaid labor. These areas of future study can help shape more inclusive, data-driven solutions. One approach can be conducting interviews with working mothers here in Massachusetts to capture firsthand experience with work-life balance, caregiving demands, and barriers to advancement. These personal insights can highlight gaps in policy and workplace support. It's also essential that future research includes trans and non-binary individuals. Gender inequality is often discussed, but people outside traditional gender categories face unique challenges that deserve visibility and analysis. Another focus could be tracking generational shifts in gender roles or younger couples likely to share responsibilities equally. Also, as remote work changes, unpaid labor is divided, these trends can inform how gender norms evolve. Research should aim to influence policy reform, particularly around childcare access and paid leave, gathering evidence about the effect of current policies and pushing lawmakers to make changes that better support working families. We must include participants from a variety of racial, cultural, and income backgrounds. Without diverse input, we risk reinforcing the very inequalities we're trying to understand. It's also helpful to compare US countries that already offer these things. The stronger support family system and controls what's possible and what's missing. In short, future research should be intersectional and inclusive and actionable. Only then we can develop policies and cultural shifts that address the full scope of gender inequality.